Hello everyone, Simon here. Welcome back to the Architecture of Dishonored 2 series. This is the last video. For the last video we are looking at the Shindaerey North Quarry. We are currently in the terminal station. Alright, where are we? We're supposed to be in a train station. Out here we do have a train, sort of, a tram. I guess a tram station. And then this is just completely jammed with dust or dirt or something. So the trams don't run anymore. Let's step out here. And then step out here and we have industrial things. So this is a quarry, right? Shindaerey... So Shindaerey Peak is the rock that looms over the city of Karnaca. And since it's a quarry, we assume that they're digging up stone up here. Possibly this is where the stone came from. The stone that Karnaca is built out of, because if you remember, basically the entire city of Karnaca is built in stone. So maybe this is where they get the stone from this quarry. So this is this train station. What can we say about it? There's a lot of brick. And so I guess it's less fancy than the city itself, right? So the brick is more industrial, less expensive. But despite that, there are some decorative elements, right? You see like the pediments up there, a little detailing at the top of the columns. And if you do look around a little bit, you see little details in the brickwork, right? So it's brick, it's working class, but it's not a slum. Like there's some dignity and pride in their architecture, right? The little arches and the little details there. So it's working class, but it's not. You know, there's dignity in the architecture. There's still some decorative elements. It's not completely you know. And look at the glass there. It's not like the people don't care about their architecture. And I think this is consistent with the idea that, like, the miners in the past, I mean, they had a union, and also somebody like Aramis Stilton could work up from the mines to become a rich person. So the idea that, you know, there's the potential for social mobility, and also the miners actually, you know, were quite powerful as a I guess a political and economic force in this city, right? Let me check back in here again, so you can see it, like, detailing. Despite most of this built out of brick, there is still ornamental detailing that you can see. Okay. So what do we have here? We have various mining buildings. Let's go take a look at what these are. Here we have, what are these? Showers. So we have showers next to the train station. I assume that you would, you know, come out of the mines, take a shower before you take the tram back into the city. That would make sense, right? You don't want to be all dirty and things and go into the city. There's a bit of a gate here. Not sure what's past here. But we assume that, you know, there's more stuff. It's built into the cliffs, by the way, and it's not entirely clear whether these cliffs are natural or not. Like, it's a quarry. They say it's a quarry. Was this stuff dug out? Or was it a natural cliff? We don't actually know. It's hard to tell. Judging by the stone, I mean, that could be cut. You know, somebody could have cut the stone away. Or it could be natural. I can't tell. It's not easy to decipher. There is another space up here. Most of these spaces are sealed and inaccessible, so it's very difficult to see just how the town worked. But we do get bits and pieces, right? So we had the shower room before. This might be a generator. Back here we do have some whale oil storage. Look at that. So whale oil storage there, and this could be a generator running off the whale oil. This might like power the town. Possibly. Difficult to say for sure. Because everything is so run down and it's been abandoned for so long and so much of it is sealed off. It's not easy to see how things fit together. There's an open window there, we can climb up there too. Alright, so let's climb up there. Get up here, get up here. Climb through this window. And then in this room we have beds. Bunk beds, a bit of a kitchen over here. Food. So I guess this is a dormitory, right? So you can sleep and eat a little bit. I guess that's the door. And is that a door? No, it's just a wall. So we have dormitories, showers, power. I guess those are things that are consistent with a mining town. Is that doorway open? Oh, it is. What's up here? More beds. Okay, so it's just an extension of the dormitory, I guess. I can drop back down from here. United Miners of Karnaca. Right. Let's get back out. So this is living quarters, I guess, with showers nearby. So if we get past the living quarters, we have a statue of a miner. So as we said, I mean, these are working class people, but they had pride. They had statues to themselves. Proud working people. Shindaerey. Stake your claim in the Shindaerey Peak. Shindaerey needs miners. A new and magnificent something something. Shindaerey North Quarry apply mining company. And then it's a shame that we don't have a complete poster here. We have tram tracks that go from there out into the mountain. I'm guessing this is how they transport stuff out of here right now. This is not over to the top. Oh, wait a minute. Is this food? There's timber and possibly bags of food or something else. So we have supplies being brought in. Are these canned food? Might be. And then Shindaerey North Quarry is in here. And then more mining buildings. Oh, we can see back there too. Hold on. Let me jump up here. So, over the top of that building, I mean, we can't go through there in the game. But we can see that beyond, there are more buildings. So, the mining town probably, like, continues out that way. Impossible for us to say exactly how big this place is. But if you think about it, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-story buildings. And it's quite crowded, and it continues that way. So we might have like maybe thousands of miners here, right? Anything from 1,000 to 10,000. Just judging by the scale of the buildings, right? Judging by how many buildings there are. Around about maybe anything 1,000 to 10,000 is plausible. I think. Just a rough guesstimate, right? Based on how big the buildings are and how many that we can see. So, substantial. A substantial mining operation. At one point in time. Obviously now everything's closed off and abandoned. Okay, let's just keep going into the buildings that we can get into. Here we have these tram tracks. What should we call these? I mean, are these trains or trams? These are trains now, right? What's the difference between a train and a tram anyway? I mean, there's like really single passenger tram cars, and then there are these big ass trains, and they run on the same tracks. Here we have 1, 2, 3 tracks. The third track appears to be a sort of a repair station. So there are a lot of these trains coming in and going out, so I'm guessing this is to take out whatever they mine. They use these trams to move them around. We can kind of get up there. I'm not sure this helps though. In the game, there's a little bit of a puzzle thing where you have to figure out how to get into these rooms to open the gates. So there's lockers here, right? And then back here there's toilets. Strange that the toilets are like on the 3rd floor up. Usually you would want to have as little plumbing as possible. So like showers and toilets you usually would have on the ground floor to reduce the amount of plumbing. Can like kind of get up there. This is completely nonsensical because in the game there's actually no way to get into this room. There's a room up here. Oh, there's a door there, I guess, but some sort of office space. But it's completely closed off from the tram stuff down there, and there's no staircase here, and you're like, well, how do you get up here? And why would you get up here? But in the game, this is where you find the way to open the doors, so it's sort of like a gameplay puzzle. Doesn't really make sense as architecture, but you know. We make concessions for gameplay. There is another room. I might have to go from the ground. Alright, there's another room there. And this is storage. Again, why wouldn't you have these rooms on the ground? So with storage for all these parts, there used to be a doorway there, but it's been jammed up by all this stuff. So this is plausible at least. Alright, so they've got their own train station slash repair yard. I mean, it's big enough to have a train yard. It's not a huge train yard, but it is a train yard nevertheless. So again, like, big scale mining, a lot of mining. Through another archway, and then here we are. Now we go into the mountains. So the mines slash quarry is in there. So a quarry is usually where you cut stone out. It's called a quarry. A mine is where you kind of dig into the ground or dig the stuff out of the ground for minerals and ores. It's a Shindaerey mining company, but they call this Shindaerey North Quarry. And I just can't figure out what they actually mine here. I'm not sure if they know, if the game designers know. Like, if they're cutting stone, we don't see any like large blocks of stone being cut, so if it's a quarry, you know, they would cut large blocks of stone and they ship them out. If it's a mine, it would be like iron ore or some sort of ore. But then like you have timber. This is not anything. These are trees. These are not, you know, so it's kind of impossible to read what exactly they're mining and what are they transporting. Okay, there are blocks of stone here. I'm not just saying that. Okay, so there are blocks of stone here, but not enough to really for us to conclude that this is a stone quarry for sure. Alright, we have a big elevator here. We can go up the elevator, but we won't, because we're gonna take another way up. Some machinery in this room. So the train thing, or the tram station was back there, or the train yard was back here. We have some tracks. The tracks do go into the 3 doors. There were 3 tracks in there, right? And then they join up into here, and they go into that tunnel. That goes into the mountain, though. So do you use these trains to bring stuff out of the mine, or do you use these trains to transport the goods to the city? Again, not sure. Can't say for sure because all these are jammed up and we can't explore where they go. Right, so in this room we have... That is a saw blade, right? Look at that. Those are saw teeth. So this is a mechanical saw. That thing moves the saw up and down. So we have woodworking. Here's piles of wood waiting to be cut, I guess. A woodworking room. And then we go up these stairs. these are broken, but we just hop up here. Very good. And then we can get up to this level, and not sure what that is. Here we have some sort of ore sorting, right? So you have conveyor belts. You have bits of, I guess, like any valuable ores you would collect. I mean, given how small the pan is and how small the conveyor belt is, we might be looking at like a lot of digging just to get a little bit of ore, is what it looks like. And in these conveyor belts, if we can follow them, actually let me just check. The conveyor belts, that comes down here, and then the conveyor belts go up there, that way. What is this? Machinery. Alright, so if we follow the conveyor belt up here, we get to this thing, and then there's a cart there. Okay, so this is a minecart. It's a smaller version of the big train things. So a minecart is that big, and that goes into the mines. The minecart can drop ores down there onto that conveyor belt, or alternatively, the minecart can drop things off into the big elevator. Remember the elevator that I did go up? It's that down there, right? Okay. So the mines, what can we say about the mines so far? Not too much. Like, there are various mining things and they kind of make sense, but so much of this is blocked off and inaccessible to us in the game that it's not easy to make too much sense of it. Architecturally, it's just a whole lot of industrial stuff, right? Brick, steel, like corrugated metal, a lot of pipes. Nothing too remarkable architecturally. Is there a window here? No. Alright, so that's the outside, and then from here we go into the mountains. And things start to get strange once we get into here. Alright, I guess I should explain a little bit. So beyond this point, we find that these mines, they've been abandoned for a long time, but more recently they've been reoccupied by a different group of people. These are not miners, these are void worshippers. So they're here, they're looking for magic, and they're here to worship the void. And there are supernatural things going on in the mountain, inside the mountain. Okay, I think that's enough. Let's look around. So once we get into... oh, again... it's hard to say, like, are these natural caves or are these cut by hand? Right, are these mining tunnels or are these natural caverns? They kind of don't look like either. Isn't that weird? They don't really look natural. But if you're mining, why don't you mine diagonally? You wouldn't mine diagonally, not really, unless you're following a vein, I guess. Usually you just like mine. Like it doesn't... the walls don't look like they've been cut by machines, right? Or by hand tools either. So it's very strange and impossible to really explain. And I think that's the point, because as I said, there are magical things going on in the caves, and so I think they deliberately made it so that you can't really tell what's going on here. Like this, for example, you wouldn't do this in a mine, but this is a very strange thing naturally as well. Like a natural cave doesn't often look like this. And then as you the further you go, the stranger it gets. Because we get to this point, and what on earth is this? What is this? If that was weird, this is impossible. Like, there's no way. If this is a quarry, if you're people quarrying stone now, you would never quarry like this, right? Why would you quarry in this particular shape? Like a very narrow crevice and it's slightly diagonal. But it can't be natural either, not really, because rocks, I mean, rocks are solid, but they're not that solid. If you have like this much rock slightly diagonally, it will just fall off. Like it will just break off and then things will crumble in. So this is not man-made, it's also not natural. And so the only possibility is that somehow this is supernatural, like there's some sort of magic going on, possibly. Remember that we are at Shindaerey Peak. And if you remember, at the very beginning of the game, we saw that, you know, the rock that overlooks the city, there seemed to be two parts to it, with a crack down the middle. Do you remember, like, when we were on the boat and looking up at Shindaerey Peak, it looked like there were two pieces and there was like a crack in the middle. I think that's what this is meant to be. This is the crack in the mountain that we could see from the boat at the very beginning of the game. And there's no good way to explain what this is, except there's a giant crack in the mountain. Very strange. Very strange, but deliberately so. I just want to say that. They didn't do anything wrong. Like, the game designers, they knew what they were doing. They did this on purpose. It is strange on purpose. Alright, so inside these cracks and fissures in the rock, the miners have built or put in various machines. In some of these rooms, you see these chairs? This doesn't belong in a mine. And then they're like beds and things. So as I said, a cult has, like a void-worshipping cult, has come in and reoccupied the mines. And so like they set up a dining table here with a little cooking pot, and then they have some beds here. Like, the miners wouldn't sleep in the mines. It's super dangerous to sleep inside mines, by the way. You shouldn't do that. You should always like leave the mines when you're done for the day. Like, there could be mining accidents. You might get buried down here, right? There might be gas explosions. Like, mining accidents happen more often than you would like, and you don't want to be caught in a mine asleep. So, but there are beds in here now, and this is the void cult, the void worshipping cult. I mean, they've pulled in really fancy chairs. Okay, so we don't see the bodies here, but the cult, a lot of them are rich people. They're not poor people. These are rich people who have too much money and too much time, and so they are indulging in occult research with their money and time. So you see this really fancy furniture. It doesn't belong in a mine, and it doesn't belong in a mining town either. It belongs in some sort of mansion, right? And so because these rich people, they move their own furniture into this space. And so you just have this like really out of place piece of furniture inside the mines. Alright, and then through here we have another one of these chairs. And we have like wood tables, like they're eating here. And they're sitting on beds. I just want to like keep looking at this cave because it doesn't make any sense. I mean, there's like layers and layers. There's the cave, and then there's the machinery, and then there's the new fancy furniture. Like these are things that usually wouldn't make any sense juxtaposed together, but in the context of the story, it actually makes sense. So so I have to tell you the story for this for you to be able to understand what's going on, right? So this is like a big train, and it stops here, and then there's a crane. I guess you load whatever you're mining, or use the crane to load whatever you're mining onto the train, and then the train ships it out, right? So that makes sense, right? So the big crack is over there. This leads back to the entrance. So there's a smaller track, and then this is the minecart where we first came in. So the caves kind of like branch out and then come back together. Alright, over on this side we have a doorway, and behind the doorway we have plants. And in fact we have potatoes. The cultists appear to be growing some food in here. I guess, to supplement the food that they bring in. Not sure if this is the best place to grow food. There's not that much light in here, right? And then up here there are a few more beds and lockers. I don't want to go that way because, again, the path diverges and then recombines later on. It actually makes more sense for us to go the other way. So this is one way into the next area, and the other way into the next area is down here. So this minecart continues down this way, and then we have bookshelves. Bookshelves in an old abandoned mine. And then the bookshelves go all the way up there where you can't reach them. Why would you have books up there? How do you get those books? Bookshelves on both sides. How do you get those books? You don't get those books. Alright, that means odd. Extremely odd. Like, remember how I said, like, the further you go in, the stranger it gets? Alright, so as we go further in, it gets progressively more and more strange and nonsensical. There are electric lights, but this is open to the sky. So whenever it rains, it'll just rain onto the books and it'll just rain onto the lights. These are indoor chandeliers, but it's like out in the open. Doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. You can't even reach those books. How do you read those books? How did you put them up there in the first place? So this is it's a library. It's a library inside the mines, and this is where these cultists are doing their occult research, right? There's some sort of magic going on inside the mines, and in fact this is interesting. The ritual hold, let's look at this. The ritual hold is a thing. The void, right, is a magical extra dimension. Shindaerey North Quarry surrounds the void, and then the Empire of the Isles is outside of the Shindaerey North Quarry. So the Shindaerey North Quarry is some sort of transitional space between the magical dimension of the void and the normal world, the Empire of the Isles. And then at the center of the void is the ritual hold. So this is a metaphysical diagram of extraplanar reality, I guess. And so the things in Shindaerey North Quarry are not entirely natural. So like the books, like who put the bookshelves here? Did the cultists put the bookshelves here? Are they magic? I don't know. Nobody really knows. You can't explain it. Alright, and then here we have more cracks in the rock. That's a void creature, by the way. If you play the game, you will actually have to encounter these things. They try to kill you. Everything tries to kill you. And then there are more tables down here. Alright, so they're doing their magical research. There's like a little office, a library and an office here. And then continuing up, are those trees? There are trees outside. Alright, books down there. And then this just ends. But there is another cave over there. And then as we come into this cave, the background noises get really creepy. And then we go up here, and there are candles. Candles in the open during the day. Candles. And then we go into a really tiny crack that is diagonal, and then we get to here, and there's that thing. That is the Eye of the Dead God. And that's his face, by the way, if we step back a little bit. Like you have his eyebrows, and then the bridge of his nose. This is his cheekbone. So there's a giant stone man face buried inside the mountain. And then the mountain is cracking open. I mean, it says a dead god, but you're not really sure if it's actually dead. So inside the mountain, presumably there's a giant stone man, and that's the game. Yeah. So the further you go into Shindaerey North Quarry, the stranger it gets, right? And this is part of the story. In the game, you touch the eye, you go into the void, and then other things happen. But we're not gonna go into the void. We're gonna stay out here in the real world and look at architecture, right? So this is the entire Shindaerey North Quarry. I mean, because the story is supernatural, things get stranger and stranger the further you go into the mines. Let me go back outside, and then maybe like take one last look, and then I'll summarize the whole thing. Let me walk back out, and we can just look around one more time on the way out. Actually, what's up there? I don't think I've ever tried to climb up here. Oh, okay, it's just a different way to get in here. In the game there are enemies, and I guess this is how you dodge them. Not that it's too important in terms of architecture. Architecturally, this is kind of weird. Why would this be in this space? I mean, they've built a brick structure inside the caves, but the caves kind of go this way anyway. Oh, I guess they don't. So this goes... Oh, wait. Hey, this leads outside. Oh, that's where we were earlier. The train yard is back there. Oh, I see. I see. So you can look out the window and look back out. So actually the dead god is quite close. Yeah, no, so if this window wasn't here, I would have thought we have traveled a long way, but actually we kind of went in and bent back around. This is probably for technical reasons, because video game levels can't be too big, right? So they kind of squeeze everything in by having you kind of go around. Alright, so the dead god actually is quite close to the surface. That's alarming. And these brick walls are to close off this cave from the outside. So without the brick structure here, this would be open, basically, to the outside. Interesting. And similarly, like back there, we have stone up there, and then they've built this brick wall in there to create an indoor room. I don't think you'd actually do this in any mines. No, you wouldn't do this in any actual mines. Okay, let's get back out. And since we're here, let's ride the elevator for the fun of it. Right, so we're here. The dead god is back that way. Oh, actually, can I get onto the roof? Probably not. No? Yes? No. Right. Down the elevator. There's a clock there. I guess clocks are useful. Jump off. You do have shifts in mines, and so you do need to keep an eye on the time. So, okay, so back there is the mines. See that there, those windows? We were looking out of that before. Brick buildings, as we said. Alright, let's get back out. Shindaerey North Quarry. It doesn't actually look like a quarry, it looks like a mine. Alright, and we're back out. So, what can we say in summary? So the Shindaerey North Quarry, there are a lot of old abandoned buildings, so it used to be a mining town. There are dormitories and showers and things, so the miners, some miners would have lived here. They could take the tram back into the city. And then behind the living quarters, there's the actual mines slash quarry. It was pretty big in scale. There were a lot of trains coming in and out to take the materials back into the city. Unfortunately, in the game, most of these structures are inaccessible, so we can't see all of this. But you might imagine there'll be like mining offices. I mean, somebody has to pay the miners, for example, so there'll be like offices and accountants. What else would you have? You would have like engineering, because there'll be mining equipment, right? So you need engineers to fix the mining equipment. And I feel like there'll be a much bigger ore processing. We saw like a little bit of ore processing, but the scale of that just seems way too small compared to the size of the trains taking materials out. The ore processing was just way too small. So maybe that was just for like the really valuable stuff, and then the less valuable stuff, maybe there was like a bigger facility somewhere else to process the other stuff. Not sure. But you know, like in video games, a lot of the times the scale of things are off because, you know, you try to squeeze these things into a video game level. What other things you might have in a mining town? Entertainment. We didn't see any pubs. Yeah, or like even other forms of entertainment. Not too many kitchens. I mean, if there are like up to 10,000 people here, they'll need a lot of food. Right, so like entertainment. So we didn't see very much of the town. But I guess, you know, it doesn't fit into the game. Right, so we saw some mining related facilities, but they were disjointed, and it's hard to make sense of them. The mines themselves have been reoccupied by cultists. So like in the mines there are two layers. There's the mining machinery, that makes sense, and then there's a bunch of beds and kitchens and living quarters that don't really make sense inside the mine, but that's because the mine's been reoccupied. And then the further you go into the mines, the more inexplicable it becomes. Right? There are cracks in the mountain that really defy explanation. I mean, they don't make sense as like natural cracks. The mountain would like, that you wouldn't have such a clean cut, stay in place. If they were man-made, you wouldn't make them diagonally, and you wouldn't make them that big. So the only like real explanation is that they're somehow supernatural, which they probably are because there's a dead god in the mountain. There's a certain monumentality to it, like it's big. Right, everything is huge. Everything goes vertical. It goes up. All the cracks go up really high. So everything is big. And then, of course, the dead god is also big. Right, so there's like this kind of sense of monumentality. Like the bigger the thing is, the smaller you feel. Right, so it's kind of makes you feel small and insignificant in the face of these big things. And then there's that library. There's a library inside the caves which don't make any sense, and then there's the Day God. Alright, so that's Shindaerey North Quarry. And with that, that's the end of our Architecture of Dishonored 2 series. Anything I want to say in summary? Like, overall, the quality of the architecture in Dishonored 2 and the expansion is quite good. And by architecture I mean like environmental storytelling. In most situations, you can read the architecture and make sense of the city, right? You can read what's going on, you can read, like, you can understand the kind of people who use those buildings, you can understand the history of the buildings. It tells you about the culture, the economy. So a lot of information is conveyed through the architecture in the game, and I appreciate that. I appreciate good environmental storytelling, and I appreciate that the game developers and the game designers have spent so much time and attention into making the architecture like an integral part of the game. Because as I said in the very beginning, architecture is often just a thing in the background, right? When you play a video game, you don't pay attention to buildings that much, right? You're paying attention to the gameplay, you're paying attention to the story, the characters, and the architecture is just there in the background. And sometimes game developers might be tempted to spend less effort on making the environment good because people don't really pay attention to it anyway. I can think of a few examples, but I'm not going to list them because, you know, let's not call out any names. But sometimes, like, you play a game, and if you look at the architecture too close, nothing makes sense. In this game, though, mostly it makes sense. In fact, the vast majority of the time, the architecture makes a lot of sense, and I appreciate that. And it does help to tie things together, and it does make it so that the more time you spend looking, the more you learn about the game, and so it's like, it rewards you for paying attention, right? The game rewards you for paying attention to these things and thinking about these things. And you learn more about the story and the settings, right? Even though you, like, if you're interested in the lore of the game, the story and the history and the characters, then the looking at the architecture helps you understand more about those things, and I like that. And especially, like, if you think back to the houses, like the Clockwork Mansion of Bobby Jindal, we have Aramis Stilton's mansion, mansion, and then we also have like the Palace of the Duke, and they all like reflect the personalities and the philosophies of the people, of the characters, right? Isn't that great? That's really great. And then of course it reflects the history of the city as well. So yeah, good, top-notch stuff. High quality video game architecture. Very good. Alright, I'm going to end the series here. Hope you've enjoyed it. I will see you in something else. Not sure what, but I'll do more stuff. Alright, see you later.